Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, Kevin Benedict, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to introduce our guest, and Brian Gilman, Vice President of Product Marketing for Vonage. Thanks for joining us, Brian.
Thanks, Kevin. Really happy to be here.
So for those who haven't met you before, Brian, why don't you give us a little bit about your background? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a 20-year technology marketer. Not necessarily my original career trajectory. I started off my career in finance and in market research, so I'm kind of a non-conventional marketer, but have really enjoyed the path that I've taken and really enjoyed where we're at in terms of how the market's evolved and the roles that I've been able to play.
Oh, that's fun. So tell us about your average day. What do you get to do when you come into work on an average day?
Yeah. I'm the VP of product marketing, and I put that in air quotes because I think the way that the market is kind of evolved, that product is less of the primary thing that we're doing today. We're really trying to help businesses understand their day-to-day workflows. So my job is part product marketer, part sales enablement. I spend my day working a lot with the sales teams on, how do we build out vertical market themes? How do we look at our cross-portfolio solutions? How do we take care of our existing customers in terms of cross-selling, upselling? The market has changed so much that it's less about bringing new products to market, but looking more holistically at solutions and how do we sell those values to customers.
Oh, yeah. And with the whole subscription economy and the emphasis on customer success, marketing has evolved tremendously, hasn't it?
It's changed even in the past 2 to 3 years. What I was doing 2 to 3 years ago is completely different than how I have to approach the market today.
So talk to us about that. How is it different?
So I think that when you're looking at now, so I started off my career in the on-prem world of the communication space. I worked at Avaya. I worked at companies like Polycom, which were very infrastructure-laden CapEx investments. Clearly, the cloud has made its way where we're no longer, the cloud is no longer a thing. It's just the way that people are doing business. And so it's taken away from the CapEx model. So it's shortened a lot of life cycles in terms of customers' purchasing decisions. It's easier to buy. You're also easier to rip out. And so I think that the change has been, how do you get in front of a customer very quickly? The customer, a lot of times, what I'm seeing is in terms of multi-touch attribution, to use your marketing terminology for the day, is, how do you get multiple touches within an organization dealing with different buyer personas? That's the other thing that's really changed. You're no longer dealing with just IT. As the cloud has really started to enable workflows and you're starting to connect and integrate your communication system with business productivity applications, you're now bringing in, you have to bring in the head of sales, the head of customer experience. It's a broader array of buyer personas. So it's, how do you expand your audience? How do you tell more holistic stories about how your solutions can impact their day-to-day business? It's not just about, how can I put my infrastructure in your network without blowing the whole thing up? And so from the approach of content, the content approach is different. The types of content people want to see is different. And like I said, it's now a speed game. And so buyers are buying quicker, sales cycles are faster. It's a whole new ballgame.
Oh, man. So, we don't get, what is the term? A rolling stone gathers no moss or something like that?
Yeah, it's one of those things. The other thing that's majorly changed is when you did win a customer years ago in the on-prem world, you can kind of put them away for a little while because you had to deal with amortization cycles. It was a large CapEx investment. Clearly you want to upsell and grow the business, but you were never at that fear of losing that customer because it wasn't easy to rip and replace, and they had just spent all of this money. And so I think the cloud has really changed the buyer's dynamic as well. It's that constant making sure that you're keeping them up to pace of what you're doing and how your solution is going to benefit them. Because like I said, it's easy in is easy out.
Oh, yeah. And it just occurred to me that even the role of sales is impacted by those same trends, because the sales guy can't just get a signature and leave and never look back either.
No, you're talking to customers about, customers want to go on a month-to-month, want them on a 3-year contract. There's constant ebbs and flows.
Yes, and they want to make sure that the customer continues to be happy month 2 and 3 and 4 and through the whole life cycle of that relationship. So I can see how not only are they perhaps getting commissions over an extended period of time too as a salesperson, in some cases anyway, they have a vested interest in keeping their customers, staying on top of their customers and making sure the process continues to deliver the results that the customer expected.
Yeah, and for us as marketers, it's not only working now with sales, but it's also working with teams that didn't exist in the past. Customer success teams, to making sure that the solution was deployed appropriately, making sure that you're seeing adoption and utilization. Because you can win a deal all you want, if your solution isn't adopted or utilized, you're going to be ripped out sooner than later. And so, how do you make sure that, if there's any net new feature requirements that they need or any new workflows that aren't being addressed, how can you better integrate with other tools that they have? It's an ongoing discussion with a much larger team within Vonage to have to go and support customers.
Oh, this is so much fun. So you brought up 2 things. One, kind of customer experience. You brought up customer success, but let's just talk about the sales cycle for customers. How has that changed? You mentioned that it's a lot faster. The buying cycle perhaps is a lot faster today. So what pressures does that put on somebody with your responsibility? How do you have to approach marketing differently then?
Yeah, so that's a large question to try and swallow. Customers' expectations are clearly changing, especially in the communication space, because by and large, when you look at unified communications or a contact center sale, the bulk of what you're selling is commodity. They're like for like features. And so trying to differentiate yourself off of feature sets that are likely going to be mimicked by your competitors 1, 2, and 3 is very difficult. And so it's from a tactics perspective, it's how do you get out with thought leadership to make sure that from a brand perspective, you're a known brand. How are you working with your PR team, your AR team? Analysts are an incredibly important part of this world where, you have to make sure that you're working with them to do thought leadership, that you're making their leadership reports, et cetera. There was a report that came out a while ago. I'm gonna botch the numbers, but they're directionally accurate. That 70% of the buyer's journey is done before they ever contact a vendor.
Yes.
And so they're doing a lot more research. Access to information is so much easier than it was when I first came into the industry, and so they have a world of information at their hands. They have analyst reports, they have user reviews, and so the volume that you have to support to make sure that, once again, you're not only hitting that IT buyer, but you're also influencing at the sales, the contact center buyers. They all have to be part of this journey, and it's making sure that you have those top of the funnel assets, and then you start to move down mid funnel, bottom of the funnel. So you're doing webinars, you're doing live demos, you're out at events. It's an overwhelming environment sometimes when you think about the volume of things that have to get done for an individual launch, let alone managing multiple portfolios.
So it occurs to me that there might be an increased importance for influencers and thought leaders. What are your thoughts on that?
The way that I look at it is, you could write your own white paper. And a lot of times in my previous lives, we always wrote our own branded white papers, and people will go and they'll read them. But a lot of times, clearly you're going to write on an angle and you're going to write in yourself in the best light. There's a lot of rose-colored glasses going on when you're writing your own papers. There is a value. There's a fundamental piece of this, I should say. Customers are a lot less likely to give you their information for anything anymore. And so, when they don't want to be on an email list, they don't want to be on a call down list. So there has to be value to what you're giving them. And so a lot of times when we talk about influencers or we talk about industry analysts, when you're putting together a piece with a major analyst firm, I don't want to throw out names for decided that way I don't exclude anybody. There's a value to that piece of research, because that customer to go and get that research report on their own would have to go and spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 in the marketplace. So there's an implied value to that. And so working with influencers, working with analysts definitively has a value as a piece of the overall marketing funnel.
Yes. Oh, that's so interesting. So with all these changes, is it putting a larger, is it requiring more content today than it has in the past or less content?
It's the right content is really it. And I think that is something that changes over time. And it's not to say that email worked today, it doesn't work tomorrow, but it won't work again in the future. Same with webinars. What you'll find, and I've seen over the course of the past decade, there's periods of time where all of a sudden you'll have a webinar on a topic and you'll get 4 people to show up. And then 6 months later, you'll run a similar webinar, but for whatever reason, it's standing room only. It's finding the right tactics for the right buyers and utilizing the right channels as well. There's certain communities that you can work with. There's trade associations that you can partner with in given vertical markets that will help clearly bring in the right opportunities.
Another hot trend that's out there, or a hot topic, I should say more accurately, is that of customer experience. So everybody's talking about CX, and they're saying the new competitive lands or battlefield is around the experience for customers. What's your thoughts on that, and how do you guys approach that?
CX is a very loaded topic in the world of communications today, but I think it is everywhere. It's one of those that everybody claims domain expertise in CX, and ultimately, trying to differentiate yourself in the world of CX is incredibly difficult. We all have our own challenges and where we play with it. And so from the communications perspective, we enable a lot of the CX experience because we're usually the end user. When that phone is picked up or when you're in that video call, we are the carrier of that experience. The way that I like to view it these days is, the world has really changed. And we talked about the cloud earlier. The cloud has enabled the communication stack to no longer be an island within an infrastructure. When it was your on-prem PBX, you didn't have a lot of access without spending a lot of money for integrations into your CRM tools, which were usually an on-prem CRM application. Yes. Today, it's now, your communications tools by default have integrations into Salesforce, G Suite, O365, all of those things that everyone's using today. And for every dollar that you're spending with your communications platform, you're probably spending 5 or 10x in productivity applications across your enterprise. The CX component of it is being able to leverage that information that is coming from your productivity applications to make sure that when a customer is calling in, the right person is being connected to the right agent at the right time. It's that level of, I'm going to use another hot acronym for you, AI and machine learning, where, everyone has their stance in those areas as well. It's enabling that frictionless communication between end user and business. I think that's really the challenge that businesses have to get over today. Yes, it's CX, but it's every communication between a customer and a business has friction in it. I'm on your website. I've gotten to this point where I want to hit the buy button, but something is wrong. I don't have the information that I need. And so I pick up a phone. I leave that digital channel that I was in and I pick up a phone to dial the 1-800 number. Well, that's crazy because now I'm going to have to revalidate who I am with the agent who may not be the appropriate agent to answer my question. And this is a singular example of any one of a million different interactions between customers and business. Where can communications reduce that friction? And so if I'm in a digital channel, well, I should be able to embed a voice communication, an SMS communication into that mobile channel or on my desktop channel, so that I don't have to reintroduce myself to the business. They know who I am. They know that I've called about this in the past, and they can answer my question on the first interaction. This is where I see CX and communications really coming together and where businesses like Vonage really stand up.
So Brian, talk to us about the future. How do you believe product marketing is going to evolve over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier. I think that the world of product marketing will start to fall by the wayside, and I think what you'll find is people with the title product marketer will be more identified as solutions marketers. when I go and I look for my own team that I'm hiring here, I want two things. One, clearly I want somebody with technical sophistication who can handle product launches. It's part of our day-to-day. We can't get away from it. I like to find people who have some form of vertical know-how. So one of the gentlemen on my team who I hired recently came from a HIPAA consulting firm, and he did product marketing there. So he's amazing in the regulated markets. To me, especially in the communication space, a lot of what we deal with are horizontal communications workflows. But those workflows without context are kind of meaningless. I'm talking about voice, or I'm talking about SMS, or I'm talking about video. All of those things within a vertical market lens have a much different context when I'm talking about doctor, patient, teacher, student, high net worth advisor, and client. So to me, it's how do you take your product now and start to make it relevant within workflows? And workflows look much different in a healthcare organization, to a financial institution, to a retailer. That's where you're now having much more holistic conversations about, once again, adoption and utilization. Overall, what does mass adoption of my solution look like? Then we can really start to talk about business outcomes and how we can impact those business outcomes. So I think the market, and you're seeing companies do it today. What I'm speaking about is not some secret sauce that I just came up with, but I think the market is starting to evolve where we are all starting to have a much more poignant view in terms of how we impact individual businesses and not the market at whole. Those who are going to talk about the market at whole, I think will end up staying in the down end of the customer size that they're going to be able to attract. As you move up market, your feature requirements become larger, but what you'll also find is that your vertical workflow necessities become much different because you're buying new productivity applications. I'm having to deal with information, security, all of these things differently. And so we have to think about a larger solutions lens than just product.
Wonderful. Brian, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom and insights with us today.
Thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate the time.
And I want to thank all of you out there for tuning in.